What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech, Peaches, back with another video. Today we are going to go over short, ducky nails. The other day I did do a live stream of full-length duck nails, so if you want to see like an in-depth, real tutorial, I have that, and I have other actual tutorials. This is going to be a little shorter. We got less to focus on. So before we go ahead and get into it, don't forget to check the descriptions for my Amazon storefront where you can find these tips as well as a bunch of different coupon codes. Follow me on social media, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and you can also join the channel to become a member. It will give you access to exclusive videos and a whole bunch of perks you can read up about. Yeah, so first things first, when it comes to short duck nails, you got to get the length. You're going to have to go ahead and cut them to the desired length. Now, let me remind you, the shorter the length, the less the flare, as you can see. And so basically, I'm going to be talking about how to keep them from just looking like an oddly shaped square, because that is something that I do see people struggle with shorter ducky nails, is the fact that instead of looking like a flare, they kind of just look like a really thick square. So, of course, we're going to measure all the nails just as we would normally. I did do a short set on my cousin last year. They came out nice, but I did learn quite a bit like the first time around doing a short length like this. So I'm pretty much gonna go pass those tips along to you guys. Okay, so it's very easy to, once you kind of cut them, you know, you start out pretty confident, like, okay, I got this. Now let me tell you where it can go south. The easiest way for it to go south is once you are doing this step, which is filing the tip. You guys know when it comes to ducky nails, I always say the less you file, the better, because you don't want to file the flare away. And honestly, you have to file even less. You need to make sure your file is angled correctly. Otherwise, you will file the whole flare out of these nails and you will end up with the square. We are going to skip that nail. This is a new client, but as you can see, she has a gash in her nail. The last thing I want is for her to get an infection or you know, anything to go wrong. So I suggested we not do a nail, because upon inspection that gash was deep and it was like halfway into her nail and there's like no nail there. So I didn't really feel comfortable putting a nail on a new client that came in, you know, already like that. So I went ahead and skipped it, which she was fine with. But anyway, so as you can see, I am only filing to really get the tip the right shape and just to make sure that the sidewalls match up. You can see that's why I'm pulling back the skin, because I want the flare to be at the right place, and I want the, I don't want to say taper, it's like a reverse taper, I mean, which is just a flare, but like you can see where the sidewalls are at, that is where the flare starts to kind of go from like normal-ish to bam, here is the duck, you know. So you want to file just barely, just enough to make sure everything matches up. If you go above and beyond that, I'm telling you, you will file the flare out of this nail, okay? And when you do application and then you go for another round of filing, you will be so confused as to why it does not look like duck nails, okay? So this step is like literally very, very crucial. I'm sorry guys, it's like not even 8 in the morning, it's 7:30 in the morning, so I'm just kind of waking up. So this is the color we're using, not polished, purple white. This color does glow in the dark. It glows a nice, like the same color as liquid. That's pretty much the color that it glows. I will say we're gonna speed up application a little bit, just because I was having a hard time. I think it's because like lately my brush hasn't been okay. When I clean my brush out, right, I come the next day, I should be able to, like, my brush will have a crunch noise, but all the bristles will free up. If I come in that day and the bristles are really soft and very moldable, that means there's still product in the brush. So the past couple of days that has happened, which makes it hard, because if your brush isn't like properly cleaned out, even if it looks like it does, you can feel, depending on how you feel the bristles, like there might not be physical product in there, but sometimes if you clean your brushes in the same brush cleaner or acetone, whatever, over and over, sometimes it gets a little gunky. Like even if you can't see it, you can tell when you're working. I feel like that definitely happened. I don't know why the beads are so loose though, because I mean I did have the heat running on and off or whatever. So it's not even like the room was cold for real. So I don't know. So, but that's why we're gonna speed through this because you guys have seen me do application on duckies a million times. But when it comes to short ones, you want to use less product. So that's the main takeaway you can get from watching me do this, even though it's not in real time. But you can see how much less product that I do kind of use on a nail this short. Now, normally the product would be a little bit more solid and it would not kind of be this sheer, I guess. Like on this one, for instance, like the beads just aren't setting up. Like I said, I'm not really sure why, because it's just kind of picking and choosing, but also it is white, and sometimes white can be tricky to work with. But you see how like sheer and thin it's becoming in the middle. I don't know why it's doing it. Like this bead should have held up better, but you know, whatever, it is what it is. So you just really want to make sure you focus on letting the acrylic flare as much as it needs to, because the thing about it is normally you would kind of reduce how much extra product is on the tip, because you don't want it to like come to like a weird flare, like, you know, those kind of like the, you know, like dudes that wear the handlebar mustaches, how the ends is like significantly like, okay, that's a lot. On duck nails, typically you would want to reduce that extra flare, but because these are short nails, I'm not really too concerned about it. So because it's actually going to help us in the end with filing, just because again these are so short, we want to make sure the flare is there and not, you know, barely there. So yeah, you can see I'm having to do a couple of beads just because they're not set up and they keep being so watery that every time I try and move them around, like I could have waited around like a while for them to set up and stuff, but she was my last client. Honestly, I was ready to go, so I just worked through it. Like I just went ahead and worked through it. I did get this set done from the time she walked into the door to the time she paid and left. This actually took an hour and 3 minutes to do, just because like I said, duck nails don't require like an extreme amount of filing, but also when it comes to like short nails, I can get them done pretty fast, especially if it's basic set. So yeah, because like I said, I was ready to go home. I think I was in the middle of starting my period that day, so I wouldn't play no games. I was trying to get on. So yeah, once again, you can see how I'm just kind of bringing the product down, following the shape that we've already made, and any excess I'm going to do away with, but I'm also not going to be mad if it causes a little extra flaring. That part I am not too concerned about, but you can see I'm just making sure everything is nice and neat and together. And yeah, because I mean the tip is your like guide, so as long as you follow that, you'll be good. I've said this 1,000,001 times, application on duck tips is really not that hard. It may seem hard to like, bring down the product evenly to such an, you know, obtuse and awkward shape. I don't know, I got frozen, I couldn't speak. But once you figure out the mechanics, like when you know how to use your brush, you can do so much. Like I keep saying that, but it's definitely the truth. So here we go. This is for the thumb, of course. I mean, as you guys can see, the application part is pretty repetitive, but I have to throw it in here because I gotta talk to you about this part. But when it comes to doing short duckies, it's really gonna be the shaping that like makes or breaks the set, because that is where, once again, you either keep the flare and it's look like a duck set, or you accidentally get rid of it and it looks like you see right here. Even if you like don't follow through in your application and don't smooth out the sides and stuff, that can also easily turn this into looking like a square set. And yeah, and me personally, someone called me rude in my live for saying this yesterday, but I mean the other day, but I don't personally like the look of, you know, it's trendy to have like the super long duck nails that they kind of barely, they're really like a square that has like a barely flare on it. To me personally, I don't really consider that duck nails. I don't really feel like that's rude to say. That's just my personal opinion. But if you're a person learning to do duck nails, that particular look, there's not really much of a flare there. So I wouldn't be the one to be able to help you with that particular look. But if you're into like the normal look of it, you know, the traditional look, this is what I'm trying to help you to achieve. Okay, so I already did my finished filing around the cuticles. So watch how I'm holding the file. You see how I'm holding it extremely parallel, and I'm only doing but a couple of swipes at a time because I do not want to accidentally get rid of the flare. So you can see I'm only filing what needs to be filed. So like there are certain areas where there are like dips in the nail, because from going underneath and like filing out the curve, that can cause changes on top, especially depending on the application as well. But you can see I'm just trying to file out any dips, so that way the sides are evenly, like they flare on both sides at an even like area. But you can see, look, don't hold your file straight, hold it at an angle. That's what I was trying to show you there. You need to hold it at the exact trajectory that flare flares, because if not, you will end up taking it out. It will look uneven and you're gonna be hecka confused. So you see, hold that file at that same angle, because what we're trying to do is keep it narrow at the top and keep it flared at the bottom. And so I highly recommend you do your cuticle filing first to do any debulking. Otherwise it is going to cause an issue while filing, because it's going to be hard to file through an area that needs to realistically be debulked instead of shaped, and then it is going to affect your overall shape later on. So if you're having a hard time with this part, it's most likely because you have not learned how to work your file yet, or certain angles you are not able to kind of like see it in your head before you do it. And that's okay. That will just take practice, because you know everybody works different. I'm a visual like worker and learner, so I can kind of look at something and see like, haha, here it is. If you're not able to do that, and that means just take a longer look at your work, right, and you'll be able to. So this is the final result. I hope these tips helped you, and of course I will see you guys in the next video.